Good morning, everybody. Thanks for logging on. It's Moses Samasuwo here from Incisive Training. And today I want to talk to you about the subject of PMVA Techniques in Restraint. Thanks for logging on once again. And I want to just touch on this issue about restraining people and the techniques that we need. In my experience, I have found various organizations and training companies to have a very high emphasis on technique. And you go to a training session and the majority of time is spent on perfecting techniques over and over and over again. Let me just say, just to be clear, that I do think techniques are important, and we need to spend a good amount of time ensuring that candidates are proficient at them, because we want to minimize the chances of injury for staff and for service users. And we want to intervene, if we have to, physically in an ethical way as possible. And the best way to do that, of course, is to have good technique. However, having said that, I think equally as important, if not more important, is the need primarily to remove the need for restraint at all. This is what the Department of Health talks about, and I think I've spoken about this in another video in more detail. But if we can work out what the triggers are and remove the need for restraint in the first place, surely that's the best thing for us. If we don't have a restraint need, then there's not going to be a restraint. There's not going to be a need for using a technique. Where we fail to remove the trigger, then we're going to work on de-escalation. So there should be a good emphasis, as much as there is on technique, on de-escalating the situation, so that even though the situation is worsening, going towards a critical situation, we want to be able to use our skills to divert that situation, calm it down through the skills that we learn through training. So primarily, let's work on the emphasis of removing the need for restraint. And then let's work on de-escalation, diversion, and just trying to mitigate the need for restraining at all. Then finally, we come to the issue of techniques. And of course, we need to be proficient at that. My hope is that wherever you train, the techniques that you're going to be taught are going to fit within certain frameworks. So first of all, they're going to be human rights-led approach. That means they're going to comply with Article 2 of the Human Rights Act, which is not only a right to life, but a positive obligation to preserve life. And techniques we are used or taught to use mustn't be ones which have a high risk of death, where another one is more appropriate and can be used, which has a less risk of death, for example. Article 3, torture and inhumane degrading treatment. Techniques should fit within that framework of not falling foul of that Human Rights Act. Then, of course, they should fall within the framework of common law. They should be necessary and they should be proportionate. Then, of course, they should fall within the framework of Hick's law and Guthrie's law. In other words, they shouldn't be techniques which are so complicated that the average person who's within the nursing world can't do them. People who subscribe to become nurses and support workers within the learning disability and mental health sector aren't martial arts experts ordinarily, nor are they soldiers. And they've come in, hopefully, wanting to make people better, to give them therapeutic support and medical support so that they can improve their health and well-being. And then there comes this issue of restraint. And very often people, they're not, sports people and athletes. So the techniques which we must teach must be ones that the average person can easily capture, retain, and actually execute skillfully. Finally, on techniques, they must fit within, what's the word I'm thinking of? They must fit within manual handling framework. So they mustn't be techniques which contort the body in such a way that they increase the risk of injury for yourself and indeed for the service user. And all of these things must be embedded in your technique training. Moses Samasuwo here from Incisive Training. We offer training and support for all of those that need to have physical interventions, health and safety, first aid, manual handling within the healthcare setting. If we can ever be of help to you, don't hesitate to contact us. Thanks very much for listening.